So, what do you think of a new setup? Pretty neat, huh? I mean, sometimes you have to let it, let it change, or else you get bored. Wait, did I say I'm having my sem break? I did, right? And did I say I'm studying baristas and mixologies? No? Yeah, I'm studying baristas and mixologies. So, probably all of the cafe that is saved on my Google map, it'll be worth it. It'll be very worth it. Hey guys, it's Jimmy here. I'm back with more videos that you probably already know, so yeah. Anyway, anywho, today we're gonna talk about what is ISO, what is shutter speed, and what is aperture. Now, three of this is basically like the main characters in your cameras with NAS, because it lives in every camera, such as your phone cameras, your cameras, your cameras, and probably your camera. Without further ado, bear in mind, this tree will affect the brightness and the darkness of your image. So let's start with ISO. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. ISO is basically, for me, I call it an additional light. So if your image is too dark, just boost it up a little bit, brighten it up, balance it up. But there is a caveat, which is the higher the ISO you go, the more noisier it gets. Now, what is noisier it gets? This is noisier it gets. Very grainy, very mushy, very weird looking image. No one wants that. No one wants a very mushy, grainy image. People normally want a clean, very smooth, very sharp, very beautiful image. So the lower the ISO goes, the better. Obviously, you still have to keep it balanced. Now let's move on to shutter speed. Shutter speed is basically like the speed of the shutter. Basically, it's kind of like the speed that you captured. Now I'm gonna show you some photos. Now, as you can see, one of the photos are taken with slow shutter speed. The slow shutter speed have a bunch of motion blurs, while the fast one it's a little bit more sharper and you can see more in the spinning fan. So basically, it's like the speed. So if the thing is moving fast, you have to bump up the shutter speed, speed up the shutter speed. Well, if the thing doesn't move at all, you can just slow it down and get the image brighter. But doesn't always means you don't have to use a slow shutter speed. Now, such as this shot is taken with slow shutter speed because it's very dark outside, so I need time for my cameras to absorb more light, and it creates some sort of like light trails, like painting, like trails effect. So that is good. Sometimes you will see those photos, maybe some professional took those photos, like there's a line, there's a light trails. They use a slow shutter speed. So put the camera on the tripod and then just click the shutter and just wait for like 2 to 3 seconds, and voila, you got yourself some light trails or light paintings or whatever you want to call it. Also, same goes to this shot, it's the stars. Now, because it's very dark, obviously you need to be in a very dark place to capture a bunch of stars. Same thing, long shutter speed, open the door very long, get the light, let your cameras absorb a bunch of light, and there you have it. Because stars doesn't move as much, they do move, but doesn't move very fast. So you can open your shutter speed for like 5 to 8 seconds and you will get some beautiful image of the stars. Aperture is basically like the door, the size of the door. So the bigger the number, the smaller the aperture, and the lower the number, the bigger the aperture. So it's kind of like opposite. You know what? Let me show you. Now, as you can see here, I have a Nikon 50mm 1.8G. I did a review on this. If you want to go watch, it'll be here or here. I don't know. Now, this is f/22, and this is f/1.8. So it's like the lower the number, the bigger the hole. Well, the higher the number, the smaller the hole. Now, what's the function? Pretty physics, pretty science, obviously. the larger the hole it is, the more light you can absorb at once. Well, the smaller, you can absorb less light in once. So pretty straightforward. Now there is another function in Aperture, which is depth of field. Now a bunch of phones nowadays, they have portrait mode, right? So basically phones uses software to blur out the background and to find out which one is need to be in focus and which one is not. But that one uses software and, you know, system and stuff. You might get some weird edge detection. As I said, from my phone, you still create some weird edge detection. Well, cameras doesn't use that. Cameras uses a physical, like legit background blur. Take a look of these both photos. Now both that photos are taken at the same time, same place, same angle, but with different aperture. So one of them with a f1.8, or the other one is, I believe, f16. I'm not sure. I forgot about that photo. But yes, you can see that it leads to a blurrier background because of the aperture. The bigger the aperture it is, which is the bigger the aperture, the blurrier the background. The smaller the aperture, the clear blur the background is. So bear in mind, three of this will affect the brightness and the darkness of the photo, as I said earlier. Now, my recommendation is look at shutter speed first, then look at aperture, then look at ISO. Why I say this way? Because look at shutter speed first is because if the things that you are shooting it's moving in the speed very fast, obviously you need a very fast shutter speed. Now, once you settle with the shutter speed, you go to aperture. Depends, do you want a background blur or do you don't want a background blur? So if you want background blur, go for a wider aperture, and if you don't want, go for a small aperture. And ISO, if you settle both of these, the image is dark, boost up the ISO. If the image is bright, just lower the ISO. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So recap, I already did a recap. So that's it for today. And for bonus, if you guys stay up this long, if you guys stay until this long throughout the video, I'm gonna give you guys some bonus. And let's talk about raw file. Now a lot of people don't know what is raw file. Basically raw file, it's a file of an image. Now we normally took photos with two files, one is JPEG and one is raw file. Now raw file is basically a better version of JPEG. Now raw file, what's the differences between raw file and JPEG is raw file capture more information than JPEG. Take a look of this example. So both this photo is taken at the same time, at the same place, and it's overexposed. And one of them is JPEG and one of them is raw file. Now both of them are basically the same, but because raw file capture more information after edit, boom, beautiful. All the highlight is basically gone in JPEG, while the raw file captures more information in the highlight, so it still can manage to save the image. So raw file is definitely the way to go, but do bear in mind, raw file do takes us more space, while JPEG maybe takes us like 16 MB, while maybe raw file can goes up to 30 to 50 MB depending on the photo. So if you ask me, if you know how to expose your shot, balance it, like the highlights not too bright, well the shadows not too dark, obviously, yeah, JPEG should work. But if you accidentally over or underexpose your photos, raw file will definitely can save your photo, but JPEG will just corrupt it. So raw file is the way to go. But if you are aware that you are good at balancing out the photos, JPEG should work. So that's it for today. Hope you guys learned some stuff and hopefully I make it more easier. So thanks for watching and hope you guys are staying safe and lights are out because the clouds is coming, it's going to rain. So see you guys next time and take care of each other. Love you. Goodbye.